Welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. For many of our children, spring is the season of testing. There are so many tests going on now, and we want to help you as parents think about how to get your kids ready. My guest is Healthy Families Alvean Lyons. Welcome.
Thank you.
This is a high pressure thing for kids.
It is. It is.
You know, so much rides on the results of tests. It determines if they pass on to the next grade. It determines if they get into college. I mean, there's just a lot
Graduation.
out there.
I mean,
and
the
even
list
little
goes on
kids,
and on.
you know, with the standards of learning, they start taking high pressure, high stakes testing in third grade when maybe they don't quite understand what
that really means. What that really means, indeed.
The teachers are doing a great job of academically prepping our kids, but we cannot expect that it ends when we pick them up after school.
You're so right. We have a job that we have to do as parents, because this really is a partnership. You know, no matter whether or not you have great teachers at school, we still have to be great partners at home to help reinforce the things that are necessary. The teachers don't come home with us, you know, so our kids are with us from about 4 p.m. till the next morning. And a lot takes place during that period of time that either helps to work towards your success or may work towards your disadvantage in terms of your test taking and even your academic performance as a whole. And we understand that as a community, the stronger our kids are doing in their academic performance and their social performance has everything to do with what you're being able to build strong individuals, which build strong adults, which ultimately lead to stronger communities. So everything matters, and we take all of those things seriously. But we have to recognize our part in the process.
Right.
So as we're prepping for these tests, there are a couple things that we could do that really would be helpful in terms of our at-home responsibilities. So we're going to use the acronym TEST.
Of course we are.
It's easy to remember. So we'll go with that. So we'll start first with T. We want you to talk to your kids about the importance of what it is that they are doing. Because as you mentioned, when you're in third grade, you're 8 years old on average. Somebody tells you to sit down and fill in the blanks and, you know, be focused and don't play around, don't daydream, don't try to make puppy pictures out of the bubbles. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that much to you in particular. So we have to create some context for our kids about what this is. Are we talking to our kids about it? You know, mine is now 15. My baby is 15. My others are older. Of course, I'm only 25, so we don't know how that's possible. But
don't do the math. We don't do SOL math here on
exactly.
Round Robin.
This is that different math, okay? But he did not take testing seriously when he was younger. He really didn't even understand the point of it because he thought that grades were enough. You know, like what you do during the year that should be it.
Right.
So what is this extra thing that I have to do that everybody says relax, just do your best? And so he figured I would do my best on the first 10 questions when I wanted to pay attention, but there were 50 of them. So he would sort of lose focus and not really understand that this was really going to make a difference. So we really had to understand that even in some what seemingly are basics, you have to have those conversations with your kids. Hey, dude, this really counts.
And that has to be, and this is where we differentiate as parents from the teachers, because the teachers are sending one message to their, 29 kids.
Right.
And some kids need a different message.
Absolutely.
They need, yes, this is important, and other kids may need calm down, relax, don't take it, don't freak out.
Right.
And so we know our kids and what they need.
Absolutely, and you're so spot on where that's concerned. Because if you have a highly academic, my older girls were very academic. So I never had to talk to them about that. As soon as they heard the word test, they knew that meant you had to study, you have to be serious about this, don't play around, you've got to focus. They got that. But my son felt very differently about it. He was like, wait, you mean this isn't going to affect whether or not I get an A or B in the class?
That's all he saw.
Right. Like, this is not really that big a deal. I'll be focused for the first couple of questions, and then I'm on to other things mentally. So we would watch huge differences between his academic performance, what we knew he understood, and how he was performing on these SOL tests. So finally, one day, we recognized we have to sit down and have a conversation. We actually need to be clear about what this means for you, why we're doing this.
Right, because they determine whether you pass to the next grade.
Absolutely.
Those, A's and B's might be fine, but if you don't do the SOLs, you don't move on.
And when you get to high school, these are verified credits. This is determination for
Exams
diplomas.
are part of your grade.
The list goes on
and you have to be
on.
better at it. I mean, you can't just suddenly start to care in ninth grade. Yeah.
Right. Like you don't wake up. It's not magic. You know, like you really, there is a process of understanding.
Right.
And we have to help our kids through that process. So taking the time to talk to them.
Talk is tea.
Is first, yeah. Take the time to talk to them about what this means for them and what message, as you referenced previously, what message you need to deliver to each of your children. For one, it may be relax. The whole world is not predicated upon whether or not you get a perfect score. Do the best that you can. You know this already. So this is just an opportunity to show what you know. That may be the message for one child. The other child, you might have to be like, the house is burning down. You know, like, we have to do this. Like, let's focus on this thing. Don't do anything else. I want you to be focused. But you have to know your kids.
Right.
To know the differences between those and to recognize what message you need to deliver to your child. But either way, a conversation should always be had. We should be talking to our kids about what's going on for them academically.
We should know, first of all. We should be piped in and know.
Definitely, definitely. I completely agree because sometimes we don't know. So getting involved enough to be aware of what's going on and when it's going on makes a huge difference, which really leads us right into the next thing, which is our E, evaluating what strengths and weaknesses your child may have academically. So we may discover that while they do fantastic on the math SOL, they may be struggling on the English or language arts SOL. We need to know where those weaknesses may be. They could be subject matter weaknesses, or they could be areas within a subject matter.
Right.
Comprehension may be an issue as opposed to vocabulary. You know, there are different elements of each test, but if we're not spending time communicating with our kids, paying attention, when you're talking about plugging in, paying attention to what it is that he or she may be struggling with during the course of the year, what things may just need gentle reinforcers, as opposed to some things that may actually require some tutoring or some remediation. The fact is, all of our kids didn't just roll out of the womb as Einstein. And some of them actually have to work hard.
And even if they did, that doesn't mean Einstein did well in the other subjects.
That's true. That is very true.
You can't get through school only knowing science.
One subject.
Right.
That's exactly right. Well, they have to be well-rounded, and they are tested on every area at some point. So being on top of what's going on for our kids really makes a difference because they're not on their own in this process, and they should never be on their own in the process. And your teachers make a huge difference in the success of your kids. But if we don't know what our kids are struggling with, and we're not taking time to make sure that we are communicating with our teachers also about what's going on, then we're at a disadvantage in figuring out how we can be helpful. We need to be as helpful as we can, and there are lots of resources that exist. Hampton City Schools has a wealth of those things that they could connect you with.
Well, and they're so good now at the practice tests and the evaluation part that they are able to say, this is the area I want you to work with your kid on, and here's some worksheets. But if you don't ask them and facilitate that, or if they send home worksheets and you're not checking that backpack, you're going to miss it.
It's so true. And they can't do it as much as we want our teachers to be flawless. They are humans, and they have multiple students that they're trying to help support. So we still have to do our part as parents in reaching out to our teachers too, to find out when we've evaluated what's going on, to say, hey, I know that Sean is struggling with this, or Keisha's struggling with that, or Laura's struggling, whatever, whoever it may be. You can be part of facilitating that for your child, and recognizing that there is a role that we have to play in that process. So E is really evaluation. We need to be evaluating what the strengths and weaknesses are for our kids so that we can figure out ways in which we may need to reinforce or provide some kind of support, even tutoring, for our kids so that they are okay when it comes time to take that test. Then S, schedules. You gotta set schedules. And most of us, I am a more laissez-faire kind of person.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I really am. And it works against my natural personality to do that.
I don't function as well on schedules, I swear I don't.
But your kids need it.
Yeah.
Your kids actually need it. And not down to the minute, not down even to the half an hour, but to set, even to say that this 1 hour each night is gonna be about preparing for our SOLs. We know this one is coming. So for 1 hour, if you don't do anything else during the course of the evening, we're gonna shut down television, we're shutting down social media, we're turning off the radio, we're doing all of those things so that we can just focus on this for a little while.
And it probably helps if you already have that structure in place and it was either their homework time or their reading time or, some place that they're used to focusing, and you just shift it a little bit during that critical
to what you're
spring
using
pre-test.
or need to use that time for, indeed. But for those of us who have no structure, you may have to build in structure for a period of time. And in all honesty, even if it's not a lifelong household schedule, when you know SOLs are coming, a few weeks prior to, or the longer the better, of course, but at least within that 4-week period of time before the exams, consistently working on something has unequivocal improvement opportunity inside of that.
And I know too, from having an ADD kid and potentially a little bit myself, you have to help set that structure. So here's the review period. You're going to do X, Y, and when you get X done, whatever time you have left over, you get to do what you want to do. But X has to get done first.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, it can take hours to do X. And then they've gone to bed and not finished it, and you're fighting all the time.
It's true, and it just
so
heightens
break it
the
down
stress.
for them. They don't see I need to review a year's worth of stuff. They see I need to review this
piece, giving them,
and other kids can do it themselves. Again, it is really know your kid and what they need.
Yeah, giving them small, measurable, achievable things that they can do. It says we're working on these 10 pages. That's what we're doing this week. Now we're working on these next 10 pages. That's what we're doing now. It makes it so that it's not, I've got to take care of the whole mountain. Let's just deal with a spoon of dirt at a time.
Right.
So it just makes it easier for your kids. And quite frankly, even for us, it makes it easier. Because the idea of having to fix a whole year that's gone wrong in math or a whole year that's gone wrong in science is a daunting and stressful notion.
Yeah.
And we're in it with our kids. As much as they feel like it's stress just on them, we as parents feel a significant amount of stress around our kids performing well. So when we break it down, even though it's benefiting our kids, the truth is it benefits us also to know that we can get through this. So yes, setting that time and scheduling it consistently each day as you're preparing for the exam can make a huge difference in how they perform. And 20 points here or there could be the difference between passing and failing. And it may seem like something small, but that's huge when you're looking at it for the long haul in terms of graduation for your kids. And we all want them to do well. So you want to make sure that you have that schedule set. And then finally, T, which kind of connects with our original T, in that you've got to talk to the teachers. You've got to reach out to your kids' teachers. Your teachers need to know that you're in this with them. And the thing is that even though there's certain things we may see at home, there are things the teachers are seeing in class as well. So being able to partner those things together to say, okay, I recognize that, when we're sitting down at home, he's struggling with this area. The teachers may not have even seen that, because if that's only 1 or 2 questions that has been referenced in class, that may not be something that stood out for them. But we don't know what portion of the exam that same area could potentially represent. So you telling the teacher also that, hey, I know that he might have done fine on your test with this, but when we do 20 problems like this, he's only getting 2 or 3 of those right. So is there something we could be doing? Is there some resource that we could be utilizing to help work through that? And then simultaneously, there are messages that the teachers can tell us that, hey, almost every year we see 12 questions about this area that your kid is really having a tough time in. Here's some things that you can do to help strengthen that. Together in partnership, we're able to make a huge difference in how our kids perform, but we've got to reach out, touch base with your kids' teachers across the subject matters. So it's not just the ones
and there
that
are
they're
a lot
struggling
of
with.
resources that the school system has developed
Indeed.
to help kids with SOL materials. And some of those teachers routinely use, but some of them they can get when they need them. And you do need to be your child's advocate, because teachers have so many kids
On their plate.
to advocate for.
Absolutely.
And the more we can help
In that process.
And they'll have some kids whose parents aren't as helpful, and so we can take some of that workload.
Right.
And if we can, volunteer in the class.
Oh,
Help.
absolutely.
Makes
Absolutely.
a big difference.
Because some of us do have a little extra time. And around that SOL period of time, I mean, teachers welcome it, quite frankly, most of the year. But as we get to some of the higher pressure periods of time, being able to have extra hands, especially in the younger grades, people who could sit down and help with reading. The reading portions on the SOL are huge for young kids.
They are.
So being able to help, with kids who are having a tough time with reading could be a huge difference for that child, in addition to that classroom as a whole, because it frees the teacher up to work on some other things with other students as well. So when you can, and if you do have the opportunity to donate a little of your time, you're making some meaningful differences that could have lifelong impacts. Because one thing I will say, as we always talk about stronger and safer communities, is that when kids are young, they are learning to read. But as they get older, they're reading to learn.
Absolutely.
So when they cannot read at young ages, there are lifelong implications
That's
to
right.
that literally
so
are
crucial.
connected to crime rates and even prison populations. And not to scare anybody, but reading has everything to do with your ability to function in society.
And if you're not there by third grade,
it's huge.
Very hard to get
It is
there.
hard
It
to
is.
make up
it's
that
a
gap.
very early thing that has to happen.
Indeed. So when
Okay.
you're thinking about ways in which you can make a difference in your community, but you don't even know where to start, if nothing else, if you can read, help another child learn how to read, and you have made a real difference in long-term implications in somebody's life.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's review. T is talk to your kids. Make
You've
sure
gotta
they
talk to your kids.
understand what this is.
Absolutely. E, evaluate strengths and weaknesses academically. That's how we figure out what reinforcers we may need, what support we may need. S, you're going to have to set a schedule. Even for us non-schedule-y people,
And
we've
I
got to
think
set some
too,
time.
you have to think about schedule also making sure your kids are getting to bed at a consistent
Oh,
time.
absolutely.
That they're getting some exercise to blow off the
That they
stress.
eat in the mornings
and that they're eating
before the
breakfast.
exams.
That's crucial.
Yes.
Little things like that we might take for granted, but it's really important they not go in there hungry and cranky.
Excellent point, because it makes a huge difference in how they perform.
And then T is partner with the teachers.
Yep, you got to touch base with those teachers.
Okay.
We are in this thing together.
Yes, we are.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, Robin.
And thank you for watching. I hope you are ready to be your child's advocate, your teacher's partner, and to work with your kids to get through the high-stakes testing period that pretty much every kid, third grade and up, faces this spring. Thanks for watching.